The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene offers insight into the dynamics of power and how it can be gained, maintained, and utilized to maneuver through different situations life may throw at you. For the next couple of weeks, enjoy these dynamic illustrations and short stories that will spark your metamorphic fix. So let's begin.
Law number 10. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Once upon a time, there was a young woman named Mackenzie who had just started her career in the film industry. She had big dreams and was determined to make it to the top. Mackenzie was smart, talented, and hardworking, but she soon realized that the film industry was also filled with a lot of negativity and drama. People were always talking behind each other's backs and trying to bring each other down. Mackenzie was determined not to let this negativity affect her, and so she turned to the 10th law of power. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. She made a conscious effort to surround herself with positive and successful people, those who were focused on their goals and were supportive of others. She attended industry events and networking parties, but instead of trying to impress everyone, she focused on building relationships with the right people. One day, Mackenzie attended a film festival where she met a young director named Alex. Alex was full of energy and positivity, and he had a reputation for making great films. Mackenzie was drawn to him immediately, and they hit it off right away. Over the next few months, Mackenzie and Alex worked together on several projects, and their collaboration led to some of the most successful films of the year. They complemented each other's skills and personalities, and they both benefited from each other's success. Mackenzie soon realized that her success had come not just from her hard work and talent, but from her decision to surround herself with positive and successful people. She had avoided the unhappy and the unlucky, and in doing so, she had opened doors to opportunities she never thought possible. Years later, Mackenzie had become one of the most successful producers in Hollywood. She had won multiple awards and had a reputation for being one of the most positive and supportive people in the industry. She had built a network of successful and influential people who respected and admired her. Mackenzie knew that her success had come from her decision to follow the 10th law of power. She had avoided the negative and the toxic and had surrounded herself with people who lifted her up and helped her reach her goals. And she knew that this was a lesson that could be applied to any industry or aspect of life. Success comes not just from hard work and talent, but also from surrounding yourself with the right people. The right people can infect you with positivity and success, while the wrong people can infect you with negativity and failure. Law 10 from the 48 Laws of Power is an important law to always keep in mind. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This law advises people to avoid associating with those who are unhappy or unlucky, as they can bring negative energy and bad luck into one's life. Instead, it recommends surrounding oneself with positive and successful people, as they can inspire and uplift one's spirit, and increase their chances of success. This law is a reminder of the importance of choosing one's company wisely, and being proactive in seeking out positive influences in the pursuit of power.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please support us by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. By doing this, you are helping us reach more people to share this amazing information with. Now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the video.
For 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there was a young prince named Ravi. Ravi was the son of the king and queen, and he had everything he could ever want. He had the best education, the finest clothes, and the most delicious food. But Ravi was not content with his life. He wanted more. He wanted to be respected and admired by the people of his kingdom, and he wanted to prove himself to his parents. And so, he turned to the 11th law of power: learn to keep people dependent on you. Ravi knew that the key to power was not just having money or a title, but having people depend on him. He wanted to be the person that everyone in his kingdom turned to for guidance and help. And so, he began to build relationships with the people in his kingdom. He offered to help farmers with their crops and to assist merchants with their businesses. he lent money to people who needed it and provided shelter to those who had none. Over time, Ravi became known as the prince who could solve any problem. People turned to him for advice and guidance, and they relied on him to help them in times of need. Ravi also knew that he needed to keep people dependent on him if he wanted to maintain his power. He made sure that he was the only person who could solve certain problems, and he would often delay helping people until they were desperate enough to come to him for help. As Ravi's power grew, he became more and more confident. He knew that he could solve any problem and that he was the most important person in the kingdom. But one day, a terrible drought hit the kingdom. The crops withered, and the people began to suffer. They turned to Ravi for help, but he was too busy with his own affairs to pay attention to their plight. As the people became more desperate, they began to turn against Ravi. They realized that he had kept them dependent on him for too long, and that he had become more interested in his own power than in helping his people. In the end, Ravi's power was taken away from him. He had learned the hard way that power comes with responsibility, and that keeping people dependent on you can be a double-edged sword. Ravi was forced to leave his kingdom and go into exile. He wandered the land, alone and without power, until he finally realized that the true source of power was not in being the one that people depended on, but in being the one that helped people become self-sufficient. And so, Ravi dedicated the rest of his life to teaching people how to be independent and self-reliant. He built schools and hospitals, and he helped people learn how to farm and trade. He became known as the prince who had learned from his mistakes and had become a true servant of the people. In the end, Ravi realized that the true power lay not in keeping people dependent on you, but in helping them become strong and self-sufficient. So recap, law number 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. This law advises people to cultivate a sense of dependence in others, as it can increase one's power and influence. By positioning oneself as a valuable resource or indispensable asset, one can create a sense of loyalty and dependence in others, making it easier to achieve their goals. This law is a reminder of the power of leverage and the importance of being proactive in building strong relationships in the pursuit of power. However, it also warns of the dangers of becoming too controlling and the need to balance dependence with independence. Law number 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Alex who had just started his career as a software engineer. He was bright, ambitious, and eager to climb the ladder of success. Alex was working at a big tech company, and he quickly realized that there was a lot of competition for the top positions. He wanted to stand out and be noticed, but he didn't know how. That was when he stumbled upon the 12th law of power: use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Alex realized that if he wanted to get ahead in the company, he needed to make himself stand out from the other employees. He needed to be seen as trustworthy and generous, someone who was always willing to help others. And so, he began to use selective honesty and generosity to disarm his colleagues. Whenever someone asked for his help, he would give them just enough information to make them feel like he was on their side, but not enough to give away any of his own secrets. He would also offer to help his colleagues with their work, even when it meant putting in extra hours of his own time. He would never ask for anything in return, but he knew that his generosity would be remembered. As Alex's reputation grew, he began to be seen as someone who could be trusted with confidential information. His colleagues would confide in him and seek his advice on important matters. But Alex knew that he needed to be careful. He couldn't let his guard down, or he risked revealing too much information about himself. He continued to use selective honesty and generosity, always being careful not to reveal too much. Over time, Alex began to rise through the ranks of the company. He was promoted several times, and he became one of the most respected engineers in the company. But Alex never forgot the 12th law of power. He knew that his success was due in large part to his ability to disarm his colleagues with his honesty and generosity. And so, he continued to use these tactics throughout his career, always being careful not to reveal too much. He knew that the business world was full of people who would do anything to get ahead, and he was determined to stay one step ahead of them. In the end, Alex became the CEO of the company. He had worked hard, and he had used the 12th law of power to his advantage. But he had also learned an important lesson, that true success comes not just from using tactics, but from being a person of integrity and character. As it states in law number 12, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This law advises people to use honesty and generosity strategically, as they can be powerful tools for gaining the trust and admiration of others. By selectively revealing one's flaws or weaknesses and being generous in certain areas, one can disarm potential victims, making it easier to gain power and influence over them. This law is a reminder of the importance of being strategic in one's interactions with others, and the power of vulnerability and generosity in the pursuit of power. However, it also warns of the dangers of being too manipulative and the need to balance honesty and generosity with integrity and authenticity.
For weekly freebies and contest giveaways, make sure you follow the link in the description to Metamorphic Health Weekly, where we send out a wide range of health tips, free recipes, fitness tips, and contest giveaways. Be sure not to miss out. Click the link below for Metamorphic Health Weekly. We hope you enjoyed today's video and would gladly appreciate it if you gave us a like and hit that subscribe button to help support the channel.
This concludes this week's episode of the 48 Laws of Power. Which law did you resonate with the most? Or is there a law you disagree with? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to subscribe and turn on your notifications for next week's episode. Until then, embrace your metamorphic tenets to transform.